Stop wasting hours manually creating test data for your Laravel application. What if I told you that you could generate hundreds or even thousands of realistic database records with just a single command? So today I'm going to show you exactly how Laravel's database seeding works. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to populate your database with real data in a matter of seconds. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to Coding with Emmanuel. And if you're new here, this channel is all about helping you master Laravel and modern web development. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more Laravel tutorials. So what exactly is database seeding in Laravel? Simply put, database seeding is the process of populating your database tables with initial or test data. Think of it like planting seeds in the garden. You're filling your database with data that will help your application grow and function properly during development. Now, you might be wondering, why do we need this? Well, imagine you're building an e-commerce application. You need products, you need users, you need orders, you need reviews to test your features. Are you going to manually create all that through your application's interface? That would take forever. This is where seeders come to the rescue. Laravel makes this incredibly easy with dedicated seeder classes that let you define exactly what data you want in your database. You can run these seed, you can run these seeders whenever you need fresh data, whether that's during development, testing, or even when setting up a new environment. All right, let's create our first seeder, and I'm going to show you this step by step. First, we're going to go to our code editor, which is, for me, I'm using VS Code, and I have my Laravel application already open. So the first thing we'll do is we go to our terminal. I already have my terminal open, as you can see, and put in this command, php artisan make seeder, then the name of the seeder class. So in our case, it's going to be user seeder. Then you hit enter. Boom. Laravel has created a new seeder file for us in the database seeders directory. So let's open the file to see what Laravel created. Now, if you look at the directory here, we have the database directory, and inside we have seeders. So if you open these seeders, you see we now have user seeder. So if I open this, this is what Laravel just created for us. So if you look at the structure, you see we have the run method that is currently empty, which we are going to fill up later. And this is all you need for you to seed data into your database. So all the magic happens inside this run method. Good. So before we start to seed data into our database, let me show you what our database looks like currently. So this is our database, and we have this YouTube users table, which we do not have any record in at the moment. Now, this table is empty. But what we're going to do now is we're going to seed data into this database without even using any front end. Okay, so how do we do this? The first thing we have to do is to go back to our code editor, then come inside the run method. But before we write anything in the run method, it is important that we import our user model, right? So we can go back to use the app model, which is the user model that we have. I can show you the user model. So this is what the user model looks like currently. We're using the table, which is the YouTube users table. Then these are the fillables. These are the feeds that we want to feed into the database table. Now, so let's say I want to seed a record into the database now. I'll go back to our user seeder. Then in the run method, what I would do is, remember, I already imported the user model rather. So what we'll do is we call the user model, then call the create method, then pass an array to it. Then in this create method of now that we have, we can now create all of the data that we want in the database table. So in this case, I'm having name, which is my autocomplete helping me here. So I'm going to make it. Then we have name, we have password. So in this case, I'm going to do bcrypt just to encrypt the password. Then I'm just going to pass a very simple one to it. Let's say password 123. Then what other field do we have in the user model? We have the age, we have the password, and we have the phone. So the username is the next. Then we'll pass a username of TechUX. Then the age, which is going to be, let's say, 20. And we have phone, which is going to be 90. Now, so what we have done here is, inside this seeder, we have created a record that we want to send to our database. So instead of us going through the process of filling out form on the web page and start typing all of this back and forth, we are just telling the seeder that, you see, this is the record we want, and this is the model that is going to create it. So call this method, pass this data to it, and let us have it in our database. Now, so how do we then execute this? Before we can execute this, remember, make sure you have your user method already imported here. Now, so what we've got to do now is, in our terminal, we'll now go to our terminal to type the Artisan command to do this, which is php artisan, then db seed. Then you can say the class equals user seeder. Then let's hit this. Then it's seeding the database. Now the seeding is done, and we can go back to our database table to check the record there. And here we have it. Now, so after the record have been created, what if we now want to create up to like 50 records, or we want to produce up to like, let's say, 1,000 record in our database? So what will happen? And that's where Laravel factory comes in. So now, where things get really interesting and powerful is the factory. So instead of manually creating records one by one, like what we just did, we can use factories to generate massive amounts of realistic data. Laravel factories use the Faker library to create fake but realistic data. Let's say we want to create 50 users. Instead of writing 50 create statements, just like instead of us repeating this create 50 times. So what we can then do is we can use the Laravel factory to create this. Okay? So Now, let me comment this out. Then we use the Laravel factory. And how do we use the factory? What would we have to do is to just change the way our code looks like, which is by using just the user model that we imported, then call the factory method on it. Then the number of records that we want, we can pass it directly like this. Then we'll say count. That's the number of records we want to create. Then let's say 50 records now. Then we call the create method. So with this Laravel, we create realistic data, 50 realistic data that we can use in our application. Remember, these are not real users, but this allows us to be able to test our applications very well using real data. But remember, like I said, these are fake data, but they look real. Okay, so now let's run the command again, which is php artisan db seed, then the class, which is user seeder. Now it's seeding the record into the database now, as you can see. Now that we've created the factory, the next thing we want to do is to run the command, which is the php artisan command to execute the, the factory. Now, what we have to do, like we did before, is php artisan db seed, then the class is user seeder. Then we run this. So now that we've executed our seeder, let's go to our users table to check the record. Now you can see we have records created in here. Let me show you all to make sure that we have the 50 records that we created. So you see from the ID 1 down to 50, and that's it. So, but before we wrap up, let me share some basic best practices with you. For every seeder that you want to create, make sure you first organize your seeders logically. Create separate seeder files for different tables or features. So this makes your code maintainable. And the second thing is use seeders for development and testing. You have to be very careful with this in production. So you don't want to accidentally wipe your production data. Then the third thing is you consider creating what is called like different seeder classes for different environments. Maybe a development seeder with lots of data and a production seeder with just essential records. Okay, so don't just populate your table with unnecessary data. Okay, then the fourth one is that you use factories wherever possible or whenever possible. They are faster to write and maintain than manual data creation. If you found this video helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Coding with Emmanuel for more Laravel tutorial like this. And drop a comment below if you have any questions or if there are specific Laravel topics you would like me to cover in our next video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Happy coding.